Hello everyone, back to today's first video. Going to have a look at the weather for next week's 10 days. For today's first video, this will take us to the latter stages of July. We'll also have a look at the CFS V2, and that's going to take us well into August. Have a look at the CFS for the next month. So, very hot and dry first part to the summer. Of course, it has been really hot for the first half of July, and also very dry. Some places have barely had any measurable rain for about 6 weeks. We have got a little bit of rain across the country today. That might pep up a bit as well this afternoon and this evening, so we'll begin by having a look at that. But essentially, the next week to 10 days, we'll still have a lot of warm and dry weather associated with it. So I'll bring you up to date with all of the latest developments very shortly. Just to say that coming up later on this afternoon, so into this evening, I will have a look at this coming weekend's events and festivals, and we'll probably extend out to the following weekend as well with that one. So the various events and festivals that will be featured in that particular video, including of course the Open, which will be getting underway on Thursday. So we're going to start off by having a look at the radar picture from the weather outlook, and we can see that we have got this band of rain here stretched out from northeast Scotland down into northern England, going down in towards Wales and southwest England. It is quite broken, it's quite showery in nature, but there's a few fairly heavyish bursts coming through, particularly across the west of Wales and also across parts of northern England. To the east of that, it's mainly dry, but a few showers are beginning to break out through central southern parts of England now. They might turn a little bit thundery later on this afternoon. And then behind this band of rain, it's hot in the southeast. Behind this band of rain, it's quite a bit cooler and fresher across Scotland and Northern Ireland, and mainly dry, except for a few showers. This is how the GFS is picking things up in terms of its precipitation forecast for midday. So pretty good, really, with the position of this front from eastern Scotland down through northern England into Wales and into parts of southwestern England too. Now, through the afternoon, the GFS does actually intensify that front a little bit, or re-intensifies it. So, particularly through Wales and northern England, there's a suggestion of some quite heavy showers, maybe some thunderstorms sparking off there, possibly getting into parts of the North and West Midlands as well. But really from the East Midlands over towards East Anglia, South East England, it remains dry and quite hot through the course of this afternoon. I have got Cape and lifted, so it does suggest that there is a potential for some lightning and thunder to be experienced within those heavier bursts of rain, particularly through northern England and into Wales. That situation at midnight, that band of rain is moving eastward, so we are taking some showers through the Midlands, into other parts of Midlands, I suppose I should say. So maybe a few heavy showers possible through Midlands this evening, and going over towards East Anglia. Heaviest rain looks like it's across northeast parts of England, and very little rain getting through to the far southeast. So the prolonged dry spell, almost say the drought, continues in the southeast. That's the Cape and lifted, showing that the thundering potential is probably shifting over towards the eastern side of the country through the course of this evening. And then by the time we get through to through to the second half of the night, so beyond midnight, 6 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday, we take that band of rain out into the North Sea, so it's turning mainly dry by that point. It will start to feel quite a bit fresher as well as we go through the night. We'll find fresher air moving in from the Atlantic. And then that's pretty much it, really, until the end of the week. And the chance of storms has been downgraded at the end of the week. There might be some showery rain coming through across central and northern parts of the country, excuse me, sort of Thursday to Friday. But where we thought it looked like we were going to get some thunderstorms across England and Wales, especially on Friday, that risk has been reduced quite a lot now by the overnight model runs. So there may be some rain around at the end of the week, but probably not too much. So this is the GFS, this is the 500 millibar height anomaly flowchart from the Penn State University. We've got the ECWF here on the top, and the GFS, which I'll have a look in a moment, is on the bottom. 500 millibars, same as Zeta's area in the absolute high pressure, low pressure, being moved around by the jet stream running above. Orange and red extrapolates to high pressure, blue extrapolates to low pressure. So we find that we've got an area of above average height centred pretty much over the top of the country again with the ECWF in the 7 to 10 day time frame, which takes us into towards the closing days of July. It'll take us to around the 26th, 27th of July with above average heights again. How many times have we said this summer back in over the UK and much of northwest Europe? Below average heights up to our north around Greenland, Iceland. The flow and the jet is going rather like that. So once again we see a lot of dry and fairly warm weather coming through, maybe hot even, for the 7 to 10 day time frame towards the end of July with the ECM. The GFS is very similar. It looks like this. We've got above average heights over, but this time send a little bit more to the east, northeast of the country, with below average heights in the middle of the Atlantic. It's still very warm, but maybe just a little bit more of an influence from that area of below average heights in the Atlantic would mean that we might have a little bit more in the way of unsettled weather, particularly for western parts of the country. However, generally they are both pretty dry and very warm as we're going into the 7 to 10 day time frame. GFS temperature and precipitation ensembles looking like this. We're looking at Gretna today. Someone's asked me to have a look at Gretna up in the borders of Scotland. So the red line here is the 30-year upper air temperature average for Gretna. We can see that we're starting off again significantly warmer than average at the moment. Those temperatures will be reducing over the next few days, going back closer to average. Still quite warm, to be honest, but it will feel a bit cooler and fresher compared to what we've been used to recently. As we go towards the end of the week and the weekend, we find the temperatures are picking up again, so it gets down hotter once more at the weekend, and that probably extends into next week as well. As far as precipitation is concerned, we do have a little bit of rainfall coming through in southern Scotland, so there's a little bit of rain around today. Everybody's seen that on the radar picture. Lots of dry weather till the end of the week. The end of the week could bring some more rain to central and northern parts of the country. It's not as much as it looked like we might get a few days ago. And then over the weekend, as it turns very warm again, it turns drier once more. Through the closing days of July, the precipitation spikes are coming back. But that's been something we've been seeing a lot on the ensembles recently. They have been keen to bring back wet weather within kind of like the 10 to 14 day time frame, but as this gets closer, it is constantly being limited. It's constantly being downgraded. So I think we have to stay very sceptical about the chance of any notably unsettled weather coming up during the closing days of July. I think we have to stay very sceptical about that until we see it within around 5 days, because yes, the models have been indicating quite unsettled conditions at times. At one point this week was supposed to be quite an unsettled week, but as it gets close to the time frame, what the models are doing, they're just strengthening the high pressure all the time. So they want to weaken that high pressure off in kind of like the 10 to 14 day time frame, but as it gets into kind of like 5 to 10 day time frame, the models latch on to the idea that the high pressure will be stronger, and so the rainfall gets limited. That's essentially what the problem is at the moment. So I think we'd say very, very sceptical about the idea of anything notably wet before the end of July. Anyway, let's wait and see whether that proper wet weather gets within kind of like the 5 to 10 day time frame. Temperature anomalies for the next month are coming out warmer than average for England and Wales, but a little bit cooler for Scotland and Northern Ireland. So close to average for Scotland and Northern Ireland with the temperature anomaly from the 16th to 24th of July. But England and Wales comes out warmer than average, very warm across much of Scandinavia in the week ahead. Precipitation anomaly, so this tells a story. A few days ago, these charts were actually going for quite wet weather, particularly for England and Wales. Now look what's happened. Precipitation anomaly from the 16th, 24th of July comes out drier than average for England and Wales. a little bit closer to average for Scotland and northern England. Even though you wouldn't say it's particularly wet, but it is a little bit more unsettled in the north, clearly. But down in the south, that's where the real change has taken place. A few days ago, the precipitation anomaly charts were showing wetter than average conditions for this week across England and Wales, and now they are drier than average, and that's happened because the models have just realised that high pressure is going to be stronger than they thought it would be. So let's go through and have a look at some charts then. So this is the GFS for Thursday. So this is when, a few days ago, the atmosphere was supposed to be wobbling and turning thundery. We do still have those slack pressure gradients through Thursday and Friday, but more of an influence from the high pressure. So that's limiting the chance of heavy showers and thunderstorms. We have got this area of low pressure that's to the north of Scotland. So that's bringing in some slightly more unsettled weather towards Scotland. Maybe Northern Ireland and Northern England could get some rain out of that as well. We go through into the weekend, and the high pressure is strengthening from the Atlantic once again. So any showers and longer spells of rain that we might have around Friday will be killed off over the weekend as this ridge builds back in, and it turns dry and very warm over the weekend and into the start of next week. So this is a week away. Monday 23rd of July, the high pressure's back there, dominating, especially across England and Wales. A slight westerly flow for Scotland will keep far north country a little bit cooler and a little bit more showery, but essentially the high pressure is back in control and dominating the weather. We go through into the middle part of next week and what this particular run of the GFS does. This is a midnight run of the GFS, by the way. We'll have a look at 6 o'clock in a moment. What this midnight run of the GFS does, it moves this low pressure in from off the Atlantic closer towards us. We're in a very warm southerly airflow, so it's totally more unstable there by the 25th of July. And then we go through to 26th, and low pressure does come in from off the Atlantic, which will probably bring some heavy showers or thunderstorms with it, and then cooler air moving in from the west. But we've been here before with the GFS at this sort of time frame, wanting to move areas of low pressure in off the Atlantic, and it hasn't really come to anything. So I think, again, we stay very sceptical about that until it comes closer to the time frame. And then this midnight run off the GFS is actually quite an unsettled run once the Atlantic does break through. We go through to the very end of the GFS run, which is Wednesday the 1st of August, so just the first day of August, and it does look quite unsettled at that point. So when the GFS breaks the Atlantic through, it wants to keep us more or less in an Atlantic flow through to the first day of August. But again, let's remain very sceptical about the Atlantic breaking through until it gets much closer to the time frame. This is the 6 o'clock run of the GFS. This is the very latest run. Again, we have this extension from the Azores across the country through Thursday to Friday, so that's stopping the risk of showers and thunderstorms down in the south, but there could be some showery bursts of rain up in the north over the weekend. The high pressure makes its move, building in across the country through to the start of next week. So this time next week, we're back under high pressure again. It's dry and it's very warm, possibly even locally hot once more. We go up towards day 10 and we keep high pressure dominating. Now remember, the midnight run of the GFS wanted to move those areas of low pressure in from off the Atlantic by day 10. The 6 o'clock run of the GFS doesn't show that at all. It just shows high pressure continuing to dominate the weather through to day 10, which is Thursday, 26th of July, and the low pressures there being kept at bay out in the Atlantic Ocean, which is pulling up a very warm to hot southerly southeast wind. And to be honest, the way this summer has gone, I think that's probably the most likely solution, because in the end it always seems to be the case with this summer that high pressure is the dominating factor. It's the most, it's the strongest factor, if you like. So that is probably a more likely solution compared to what midnight GFS was showing, which was to move that low pressure in from the Atlantic. Of course, at some point this high pressure will break down. We will move low pressure in from off the Atlantic and we will break this drought. But that's going to happen at some point. But trying to decipher when that occurs is very difficult, and until we see kind of like low pressure generally and genuinely coming in off the Atlantic within around the 5 to 7 day time frame, I think we need to remain very sceptical because of what's gone on with this summer so far. Eventually the 6 o'clock run does get there, it does break that low pressure through, so this is Friday the 27th of July, a little bit beyond day 10, brings low pressure in from off the Atlantic, but not with any real conviction, and by Wednesday the 1st of August we're back to high pressure once again. That's a very dry and warm run from the 6 o'clock run of the GFS. ECM looks like this, so again at the end of the week when we should have been, or it was suggested we might get that thundery weather going across England and Wales, now it just looks like we keep the high pressure building in from off the Atlantic. This continues into the weekend. In fact, over the weekend the high pressure is strengthening again from the Atlantic, so lots of dry, very warm or hot weather through to the start of next week. Through the course of next week, that's how things are looking. It takes up to day 10, and really we're just keeping the high pressure dominating with the ECM this morning. There's no real low pressure breaking through. Let's have a look at the upper air temperatures at day 10. There they are. They're still very warm to hot, so the ECM keeps it hot and dry really through to day 10. Thursday 26th of July, the hot and dry spell continues. And then finally the GEM, finally for the shorter range models, GEM looks like that. So over the end of the week to the weekend, again the extension from the Azores high is across the country, very little rain coming through. Into the extended range, the GM is trying to keep this ridge going, but it is a little bit weaker compared to the other two models. So, for example, there, 216 hours, Wednesday, 25th July, possibly a little bit more unsettled and showery then. But again, it's nothing really definitive to work with here from an unsettled or a rainfall perspective. I know a lot of you are now really desperate to get some rain and cool temperature down a little bit as well, but it's mainly, I think, a lot of you are desperate to get some rain, and there's just nothing definitive in terms of wet weather, certainly for England and Wales within the next 10 days. Yes, there will be showery bursts at times, central northern parts of the country. We've got some of that coming up later on this afternoon. And then again, Friday possibly brings some rain for the north, but down in the south, where it's so very parched, there's not really much sign of anything definitively wet within the week to 10 day time frame. Let's have a look at CFS V2 for the next month. These are 500 millibar heights broken down into weekly periods. The first week period will take us from the 16th through 22nd of July. The coming week has this area of above average heights up to the northeast and also out to the west of us. Below average heights up around Greenland and Iceland. That's where the jet stream is, although a little bit of energy is just trying to come southwards, meaning that particularly for the northern parts of the country, it is a little bit more showery up in the north, but essentially, again, it is a high pressure dominating factor, so a lot of dry weather and pretty warm too. And then to week 2, that ridge is actually strengthened by the CFS V2. So this is the 23rd, 29th of July, with a strengthening of the ridge over and to the east of the country. That's a big blocking feature that we've got going on there, and pulling up these very warm to hot east to southeasterly winds as we go into the last full week of July. That's week 3. It's the 30th of July to the 5th of August. Above average heights continue around Scandinavia and also to the north of us. Below average heights to the south, and the flow and the wind is coming from an east to southeasterly direction. Possibly turning a little bit more thundery in the south and southwest perhaps, but essentially it still looks pretty dry to me, that, and very warm, possibly locally hot. Week 4 does show a change. This is the 6th through to the 12th of July, with the area of above average heights being forced back much further east now. It's moving back into kind of like the Baltic area, and so low pressure below average heights down to our southwest, possibly threatening a thundery breakdown, and then bring back an Atlantic flow there for week 4, 6th to the 12th of August. But that is a very, very, very long way off. And certainly towards the end of July, looks like high pressure is going to remain the dominating factor. So, the temperature anomaly for the next month broke down to week periods. First week period takes us from the 16th to 22nd of July, coming out hotter than average for week 1. And those temperature anomalies actually increase in week 2. This looks like a very hot week from the 23rd to the 29th of July. Temperature anomalies there are between around 2 to 3 degrees above average or more. So, a really hot week there to close out July. Then week 3 looks like that. It's the 30th of July to 5th of August. Significantly warmer than average still. It's around 2 degrees above average. And then week 4, which is the 6th through to the 12th of July, just the suggestion that there might be a bit of a breakdown going on there. So the temperature anomaly, it's still warmer than average, but it's, if you see what I mean, it's not as hot as it is in the weeks preceding, but generally still a very warm to hot month for weeks coming up. Precipitation anomalies in the week ahead, they're coming out substantially drier than average. No particular signal for rainfall there, and that continues into week 2 as well. So the next 2 weeks look very warm to hot and dry, really, with the CFS V2. Then we go through to week 3, which is the 30th of July to the 5th of August. And the precipitation anomaly then is going closer to average. You'll notice down to the southwest of the country, it's actually a bit wetter than average. So thunderstorms possibly gathering around Biscay and to our southwest in week 3. And then week 4, again, it's close to average with precipitation, but down to the south and southwest, it's a bit wetter than average. Some sort of breakdown seems to be taking place there through the early part of August, but that's a really, really long way off. And so I think we have to say that within the next week or 2, we're likely to see a lot of dry and at times very warm or hot weather continuing. There will be some rainfall, and that's most likely across central and northern Britain. Not much sign of anything particularly wet down in the south and the southeast, I must say. And then maybe we get to August and things begin to break. But again, I have to emphasise that's a long way off, and we're just going to have to watch out for that. I just say that if you enjoyed today's video and you're enjoying the content, then do please consider becoming a patron for Gazwavids. This is the Gazwavids patron page. We're out to 21 patrons to Gazwavids. So if you'd like to give us an ongoing monthly donation, it could be anything as little as $1 a month, then you can sign up for a Patreon account and become a patron for Gazwavids. And alternatively, if you'd like to give us a one-off donation, then you do it through the Gazwavids PayPal.me page. So you've got a PayPal account and just come here and donate whatever amount of money you would like to donate for Gazwavids. And this is helping us to pay for our website, helping keep all of the content completely free as you want it, as you need it. So big thank you to all the patrons and donors for Gazwavids. You will get a mention, you get a shout out in videos if you become a patron or a donor for Gazwavids. If you want one, some people have chosen to remain anonymous. That's fine. If you would like to remain anonymous, then just leave a note with your donation, and we'll still say thank you to you in the videos, but we'll do it anonymously. But otherwise, you'll get a mention in the vids. So if you'd like to do that, then please consider it if you found today's content useful and interesting and informative. Right, so later on today we'll have a update for those festivals coming up at the weekend, and also we'll probably extend out to the following weekend. I think that includes Camp Festival, and I've been asked by quite a few people about that actually. So if you're interested in what weather they do for Camp Festival, not this weekend but the following weekend, then I'll touch on that in today's festivals update for you coming up this evening. That's all for now, and thanks for watching.